We're live. Welcome back to another episode of Marketing Without Rules, the show where we work to inspire business owners by bringing on guests who exemplify the hunter mindset. They make moves, they color outside the lines, and they have found creative ways to channel the attention of their community into currency. This show is sponsored by Blue Crocus Solutions, a web design and SEO agency focused on helping home service companies. I am your host, Louis Vandervalk, and today I have the pleasure of chatting with Chris Weir. Chris is the founder of Spartan Junk Removal, a fast-growing, community-focused junk removal company based in Maryland. With a background in entrepreneurship and a passion for brand building, Christopher takes a bold, lion-hearted approach to leadership, blending systems-based marketing strategies, and a deep commitment to excellence, service, and community impact. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Louis.
Excited to chat. I know you've been on the Trash Talk podcast a bit. That's where I had originally kind of come across you, and I was like, man, I gotta chat with this guy. This is gonna be fun. I reached out, and you booked, and here we are. So this is gonna be a fun one.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna dive right into it because I have some questions here. Like I said, it's got to be, this is a conversation that goes where my interest kind of lies. So you're gonna come along for the ride. But if we could go all the way back, like what's your first memory of hauling junk, and how did that kind of shape the mission of Spartan Junk today?
Sure. So that's a really interesting question. My grandmother was a real estate agent. Probably back around 2003. I was just getting out of high school and going into getting into college. And what ended up happening was Big Blue came out. They did an estimate. And what I was able to do is I actually accurately estimated what the amount of trucks were going to be in the truck. And I didn't realize, but we were talking to the manager at the time, and he was like, hey, I like your style. Do you want a job? And I was like, yeah, I actually do. I want to, I'm looking for something for the summer because I'm going back to college. Well, that summer job ended up lasting for like 6 years. When I was there for a really long time. And, I was in a beat up, torn up, shirt and everything. And I went down to the manager and I was like, hey, I'm sorry the way that I'm dressed. And he's like, hey, that's fine. You can start tomorrow. And that's actually how my junk removal business started way back in the day. And then it's kind of led me up to owning my own company.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So you have the kind of the experience, and you learned from, how the franchise worked. Why not start your own franchise as opposed to starting your own company?
Sure. So that was an interesting turn as well. What ended up happening was I actually left junk removal for a while, and I was in finance. I was doing like loan processing and stuff like that at a credit union. And then I had a child, and that mom and I didn't stay together, and it was a little bit of a challenge. So we had a parenting agreement at the time. It was really unfair for dads. So they kind of like pushed us down to every other weekend visitors, and I was not down with that. So I actually thought to myself, like, hey, how do I, how can I be a dad, and how can I support myself at the same time? So I actually went to school. I have a legal degree. And I got that legal degree because the law system, it made so much, it didn't make sense to the point where I was like, I have to learn the system and where it's coming from. So I did. Ended up getting joint parenting, and at the time I was less than 5%.
So just to back this up, you went and got a law degree so that you could basically sort some family stuff out.
Yeah, and I end up scoring like joint parenting time with son, and at the time I was less than 5% of men in the state of Maryland, and in order to do that and to be able to sustain myself, that's where Spartan Junk Removal was formed, was because I wanted to be a dad, but I needed something that I could work the hours I could. And
Yep.
then I just ended up growing and growing and growing, and I stuck with it. So, even in the state, I still have joint parenting with my son, and
Hmm. Hmm.
um, mom and I actually have a good relationship right now, which is great.
Yep. Yep.
And and the junk removal business is flourishing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's wild. Uh, I thought of when you said that you went to get a degree for that. Have you watched Law Abiding Citizen?
Yes, I have.
It just felt like that. It just felt like that, where you just took things into your own hands and you just went out to change the world. Obviously, I imagine it didn't feel quite that, going through the mess at the time, but there's a movie in there somewhere.
Yeah, in Law Abiding Citizen, it was the very end. I was so upset with the very end. I was like, I could see how they were trying to tie everything together. But
Yeah,
overall, the movie was really good. I enjoyed it.
super good. Yeah, yeah, interesting ending for sure. Not to
Yeah,
spoil it for anybody, but
yeah.
yeah, I've loved that movie. I've watched it so many times as a parent and as someone with an engineering and tinkering background. It's just like, man, that's this guy. His anger and grief drove him to some crazy ends for sure. Yeah, wild.
Yeah, it
So yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say in that movie too, like it's deep on so many levels because I've seen it a lot too. And every time I look at the movie, I'm noticing like all the even the surrounding actors, I'm noticing where they're starting to realize that everybody kind of messed up during the whole process with
Yeah,
everything. But
yeah.
that's one of my favorite movies too.
It unravels pretty dramatically there. So put that on your list if you guys are listening. Take take an episode or two that you would have listened to Marketing Rules and go watch Law Abiding Citizen. It'll be worth your time. I love it. Switching gears a little bit. Core values, team leadership, all of that stuff that I love and admittedly am just starting to really implement with our team. But always been a fan of the concept. Now it's rubber meets the road. Your core values spell out guides. What talk a bit about that, and what how is it living up to those core values as an owner? What are they? Like if you could spell out what they are and then go from there.
Sure. So guides versus the G is for guts. In junk removal, I mean, we got to get into the nitty gritty. So you got to
Yep.
have a little bit of guts in order to go in to do what we're doing. U is for understanding because we have to have a deep understanding of what we're doing. We're not just removing a couch. We're not just going into somebody's house and throwing things out. Like our business is very intimate. Like we're going into people's houses, we're touching their things, and we're being invited to bedrooms and bathrooms and basements and attics, all where the secrets and the memories are kept. And we got
Mhm.
to take good care of that. We have to have integrity too, because we are going into people's houses. And we also have to be determined. And determined for us means making sure that we're doing things by like a set path. We have to be determined to get the things done right. Um, and E is making sure that we are, given that excellence, really sharing our experience. And then S is for sincerity, making sure that what we're doing in truth and being, I like to think of it as like being simple and straight to the point.
Yep.
Being sincere, that we don't have to make things bigger than it has to be. We also don't have to confuse things, and by keeping things simple and sincere, um, I have found that everything ends up working out to be not only fast, but customers are really happy, our team members are happy. Because we don't have happy team members, how can we have really happy customers?
Yep.
And we also do the same thing with our vendors too. So, junk removal can be a bumpy road. Sometimes we're really busy, sometimes we're really slow. And by just letting our vendors know, like in January and February, there's not much money there. Like we're going to need to have a little bit of extension on credit, but by the time April or May comes around, we're going to be fine. And we work with our vendors, letting them know that way in advance. And just by being sincere, business is much easier to work. to work like that, and you get a lot of benefits and a lot of respect out of everybody by being that way.
How is it? I love that. I love that. Very, very simple. What was I again?
For I is integrity. Just
Yes,
making
love it.
sure that we are a whole person,
Yeah.
and not be, you don't have to be one way with business customers or one way with residential customers or big clients or small clients. If you're the same way with everybody, that enables you to really dive deep in your skills and really better yourself.
What you see is what you get. Yeah. Ours is grit. I like your guts too. So ours is
Yeah,
grit, growth, results, integrity, and transparency
wonderful.
is ours there. So it's got the overlap there. What how long have you had that, and how has it affected like the leadership and team culture and everything?
Sure. So guides for us is actually more of an outdated model. We haven't used that for like a couple years, even though it's still there. The
Mhm.
formation is still there. Now we do the three critical characteristics and three critical actions that were um, uh, taken. That's how we hire internally. That's how we make sure that we treat our team members. So all of those guides values are there, but it's more in a storytelling, like being a business with a soul, because we know that working with a business without a soul sucks. Being a team player is another one. Um, given
So if you're can you run through that? I like the sounds of it. Like, but like put that into practical application for myself and the listeners. How are you hiring? How are you holding the team accountable? You said it was three and three things.
Yeah, three critical characteristics
Yep.
and three critical actions.
Yep.
And the three critical characteristics are who we're really looking at for people. So
Yep.
if they have these three critical characteristics, what does that mean uh, for us and our customers? And when you kind of think about it, like what are the three things you're looking for somebody? And what are the three things they need to do every day that can really like drive forward the process of
Mm.
not only our business but themselves. And so it
So
took a lot of,
each role would have a little bit of a different critical actions. It sounds like.
each one can. So we have like an overarching company one, and then teams can have their own as well. Like we have some managers right now that manage teams, and they are building their three critical characteristics and three critical actions that um, is ways that they like to work with people in the way that they want to. Because whenever I build teams, people need to mesh with me and they need to be
Yep.
able to work with my quirkiness. But my managers not only have to work with me, but their employees have to work with them and
Yep.
their quirkiness. And we do that very simply just by having three critical characteristics and three critical actions. I know I've said that
What
a lot of
No, I think it's good. Keep saying it. What would you be able to share those?
Yeah, yeah, I sure can. As a matter of fact, we have it up in our office. It's over there, and um, it's in a
I'm putting
plastic.
you on the spot here.
Yeah, yeah, no. The first one is just being a business with a soul. I think I mentioned that
Yep.
a little bit earlier, and then the second one is we need to be a team player because junk removal is inherently a team member based business from the top down, from the bottom up.
Yep.
Um, and the third thing that we look for in people is, geez, yeah, I know. Here I'm on the spot.
You're good.
Um, uh, Let me pull this up here. Oh, okay, let's see.
This is the live experience. We'll edit
Yeah,
it out and post for you.
oh, be a positive force. Yeah, that was the one that I was looking for. Be a positive force because like when we're out doing junk removal, like it can be hard. Like we're working out in the heat, we're working out in the cold. Sometimes we're looking out for hoarding. So we actually teach our team members you know, like times get tough and sometimes you have to change that like little switch in your head to become positive. We don't want
Mhm.
people to be robots, but we want people to understand, like, if you get in a positive mind frame and you really attack the stuff, then you get the stuff done so much quicker.
Yeah.
And like a lot of our processes are designed to try to end at a high note all the time.
Yep.
And then our three critical characteristics are being on time and prepared. Like that is one thing, you know, because when people are on time, everything
You
runs
crushed
smoothly.
that today. He was 5
Yeah,
minutes early to the show.
thank you. Um, and we like live by that. And also like our team members, their tips depend on being on time or before time. Like tips skyrocket, especially if they're before their time window. So we let our teams know that. The second one is, well, this has a curse word in it, but that's okay. But we tell
You're
our
good.
team members to handle their shit. Because take in this is verbatim from our poster is, you know, taking action is not somebody else's responsibility, and amazing results come from our own ability to act. And when our employees like are taught not to downstream but just to take care of things right then and there, then they're ready to go. And everything is so much smoother that way. Like we get a lot done here, especially
Yeah.
with I try to keep my team like pretty lean all
Nice.
the way through. And then the last one, which is easy, just to give a world-class experience. And it really just strives down to keeping good communication to not only our customers, but to our team members. And as I said before, like our vendors, like there's a lot of people who rely on us when we're running these businesses. And so that's kind of how like the guide's values like transformed into that. And then my managers are trained, like if there's something that really upsets you that the team does, like focus on it and like live it. And when you live it, the team will learn how to adapt and make things go smoothly.
Oh,
Uh,
can you give an example of that?
um, sure. One of my team members is very focused on truck maintenance, which I love. So one of his values is like keeping things clean and keeping the trucks running. And so his team, he's very new here, but like the team is already starting to get energized with that. He came from one of the big franchises, and his thing is like maintenance and making sure that they're taking a look at those cameras on the trucks and making sure they're driving safely. Like he is
Wow.
so adamant about that. And quite honestly, like that's very much welcomed as we're managing a bigger fleet now. So,
It all adds up, right? All the repairs and yeah.
oh geez, it's almost endless, and it gets way more out of hand too when you're actually not doing the maintenance you need to do beforehand, because it's kind of
Yep.
like a domino effect, and it ends up costing a lot of money.
Isn't that life though? Like that should just be like written in a tattoo for all
It,
of us as business owners.
it is. It's hard. It's a lot of work too.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I like the three and the three, and how they're very focused on action. That's cool. I've not heard that before. Does it come from a philosophy or system or whatever that you, or you just say, hey, this is what we're gonna do?
Sure. No, it actually came from Story Brand, Business Made Simple.
Okay.
Um,
Yep.
I took that program. It was really beneficial, and um, you know, it's so hard to say like be a whole person, and but it's so much easier to say like work with a soul, like be a decent human being out there.
Turns it into an actionable item. Yeah.
Yeah, try to do better, and that resonates not only with everyone else, but it's also a lot easier to remember. Besides being a positive force when I was put on the spot.
I love it. I love it. That's huge. That's huge. That's like I said, this conversation is going to go where I find it interesting because I'm in the mix there, right? And we've had some turnover, and we're bringing in new people, and so I'm like getting a chance to kind of revisit some of this stuff and look at, where it's all going. But
Yeah, you know what? I'll give you a little bit more about that too, as far as like us managing our teams. There is a wonderful book, which I think even the last time I was on a podcast, I brought one up. I'm not pitching these
mm,
just to do it. It's How to Be a Great Boss.
that's from the Traction series, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, that's Gino Wickman right there. And one of the things that they have is like the people analyzer on there, and you just find whatever characteristics or whatever company heartbeat that you have, and it's really easy. You just put a plus or minus next to them.
Hmm.
And then, like,
Yeah.
are they on time and prepared? It's either a yes or no. It's kind of hard to say, like, yes or no for integrity. Are they being a whole person? Like, there's a little bit of a gray area there.
Yeah.
But like, hey, does this person, like, do they energize people? Are they working with the soul out there? It's a lot easier to say yes or no when you're talking about those action steps. So I've kind of like combined those two systems together. And now it's so easy for me to say, hey, does this person belong here or not? And what's nice too is when you have that set up, you don't have to be a jerk either to the employee who doesn't fit your culture or what you're doing. You say, hey man, like, you're a good guy, but you're not working out here. And you can do that before your emotions start running high.
And it's yeah, that's something that, as we get systems in place, um shout out to Dennis Yu, because he kind of inspired me, and his podcast is dropping tomorrow actually. But
No wonder.
he has such a solid process in his agency that they have a probation period. I think I'm getting this right. It's a probation period of 2 weeks. Ours is 90 days right now. But like within
Mhm.
those first 2 weeks, they know without a shadow of doubt, objectively, whether someone is going to be a good fit in their agency or not, because they just have a system. And if people don't follow the system, it's a yes or no. It's a check mark or it's not a check mark. It's not, oh, we don't like you as a person or whatever. It's very, very objective, which makes it easier as a leader to have those discussions. And the team knows right from the get go what they're being, rated on, and what they're being graded and, dismissed or promoted on. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, we don't even have a probationary period where we are. Our probationary period is infinite. The way that we like to say it, we're just good people trying to do good things.
Yeah.
And yeah, we kind of cut a lot of that stuff out of our company, like probationary periods, or just a lot of the extra HR stuff that never was really valid, that we think.
Hmm.
Welcome a lot of people. If you have those three critical characteristics or three critical actions, then that's great.
Yeah.
And we also tell our employees too, like, junk removal is a transitional business. So we know that employees are going to leave. And that, not only is that okay, let us know so we can help you further on in your career, because that's kind of like working with the soul. And when we do that, like, our employees are really happy. And then the opposite happened. They just don't leave now. Now we have
Yeah.
a lot of employees between 3 to 5 years, which is fantastic. When we started implementing that stuff, people seem happy and they really know where they stand. So most of them do no, all of them do a fantastic job at doing that. So
I love it. I love it. Speaking of trucks, you guys have a pretty bold brand, and I'm just curious how that, like, did you always have that, or was that something you guys implemented? And I'm curious how that affected your marketing and lead flow.
Sure. So that's a pretty deep question for us in that branding. So we were actually going through a branding process. So ours is Leonidas. I don't know if anybody can see the lion over there, but we definitely do
Here,
have.
I'll make you bigger.
Oh, sure.
Oh, that was just me. How do I
Oh,
make you
sure.
bigger?
Yeah, yeah. That's Leonidas in the back.
Oh, there
Uh,
we go. Yeah, we can see you now.
yeah, but the uh, the lion came back actually out of a branding exercise we were doing um, uh, with actually a YouTube influencer, which is uh, really awesome. And from there, he asked a question like, if there was an animal, what would Spartan be? And all three of us, and it's independent, like, we're not in a group or anything like that. As a matter of fact, that was part of the agreement, was we did not cross talk about anything until after we did the interview. Every one of us said lion. And he was like, this is
Wow.
the first time that that's ever happened. And then that's where Leonidas was born. So now, like, we have a big lion on the side of our truck.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome. And then you've got the big red branding. They're pretty outstanding in their field, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
As
heart and
they make
passion.
it.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. So what interesting, you said I picked up YouTube influencer. What was the path that led you down there? And then, the follow-up question is, did you guys notice a difference in lead flow after you did the change with the trucks?
Sure. So the short answer to that is what led up to it was I was getting very frustrated because we were dealing with like a lot of companies who said that they knew what they were doing. They didn't know what they were doing. Um, I could have gone to Fiverr or even asked my 7-year-old daughter. She'd have given me a better experience than a lot of these companies out there, and then I was like, cool, let me just check up on YouTube. And then I found an influencer. His name was Philip Van Dusen. And I was like, hey, can you help us out with this? And he was like, yeah, let's go through my process. And we did. And as far as like lead flow, um, I don't think that there's a direct correlation, but it really dug deep into who we were. So I think it kind of improved everything because like that
The
lion-hearted
clarity.
like resonates with a lot of people with our team. And then even afterwards, most people are dog people. But like when we started asking people around, like, hey, are you a cat person or dog person? We actually had quite a bit of people who were cat people that worked here. And we didn't even realize that. And we thought that was so weird. So we put that on our branding. And then it's cool too, because lions are pretty vicious as well when they need to be. Uh
Lions are pretty cool. My guess is
yeah,
if you had done a survey before the branding came out, they were mostly dog people, and then after they're like, "Well, it's way cooler to be a cat person." So
yeah. Well, that's true.
I just looked at Philip while you were chatting. He's got cool brand going on. That's awesome. Very cool. What diving into some marketing nuggets? What is some marketing advice that you wish that junk removal or home service based entrepreneurs would follow? Like some advice that they would follow, but that no one does.
Sure. So I have a couple things. Marketing and branding, what I think a lot of people try to overcomplicate is you have to be where your customer is. Like I see too often where people are trying to find the silver bullet, if you will, and it's like it's not there. It's actually where the silver bullet's not. Like where are they at? And they're mainly like in their homes and they're on social media or they're out in their community, you know?
Yeah.
That's one thing I wish that people would focus and focus more locally. Don't go widespread because that's really costly. Uh, which then leads up to my second one is first off, you have to be really consistent with marketing. And in marketing, you're going to see much of a bigger return when you're actually uh, doing things cheaper, but you're more consistent
Mm,
because you have to touch people like more and more times to get to know who you are. And lastly, like have a budget. Like I see so many people way overspending on marketing and not realizing like Google is just going to take up your ad spend and they're also going to ding you for it too
they're just going to
because
take it all.
yeah, they're going to take it all and then they're going to put your business down and as far as the flow goes because they're going to realize that customers that you're not servicing correctly because you're like too overworked are
Yep.
going to other businesses. So it actually deranks the website. I didn't realize like what an intricate level that was. And when we found like a really good budget to stay on, we have plenty of customers and we're servicing and we're growing without having our bank account drained. And if you listen to Google too, like they're not hiding that stuff. They're telling you what's going on. So listen out there how to make a proper budget and uh, that ways you're actually profitable and you're actually delivering that customer service you're promising.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned this. I mentioned this on an episode recently, but Google actually put out this study, but they call it the 7-11-4 rule, where a customer typically has 7 hours of engagement across 11 touch points in 4 separate locations before they buy from you.
Wow.
Very, I would say it's probably a little bit skewed when it comes to home service because some people, they need something, they're going to go on Google, they're going to find it. But there's also going to be those people that see your trucks, that see your ads, that see, Facebook ads, that see you out in the community. And it's very interesting, if you think about your buying habits, certainly for me, it resonated. I'll see something around and then the Facebook ads start following me around. And then, it's going to come up on Google display ads probably. and then so on and so forth to a point at which I end up buying or don't. But like if I'm buying, it's typically I've had a bunch of touches already before I purchase.
Exactly. And how many of those touches that you're actually like registering before reaching out to somebody? Because if you're touching that person, then they're going to have more trust in your brand. Even
Yeah.
if they haven't interacted with it, they'll have much more trust. And that's especially important if people are inviting you into their house and taking their things.
Yeah. Two of the four items of clothing that I'm wearing today are because of that. Well, actually, I realize I'm not wearing a True Classic, but I wear True Classic most of the time. The True Classic tees, and I saw their ads all over the place. Hilarious ads, and they just followed me around on Facebook, so I ended up purchasing. They work really well for me. I love them. And then my underwear, Man-Made Underwear, a Canadian brand, hilarious ads. Followed me around on Facebook for a while, and then I bought them, and I think I think I've purchased like 30 pairs at this point. I just love them.
That's awesome.
But it comes down to be where your customers are, and then follow them around while they're doing it. Now, obviously, you guys don't just do Google ads. What other things are you guys doing for marketing?
Sure. So of course we have branded trucks. We give yard signs is really important. I know a lot of people are like, hey, it's a waste, especially because all the junk removal companies steal everybody's signs and throw them away.
That's
But
just what
our
we hear about. Yeah, there's millions of yard signs out there making tons of money.
No, well, that's true, but that's the thing about consistency is even when your competition is stealing your things, if you keep putting that sign up, it's going to eventually stick and stay. And that's what we have found is just by consistently doing it month after month. Like some of our signs have been up for quite a long time. Some of our signs are gone even within hours of us dropping it off. Uh, and there's other junk removal companies which we won't name, but they will post their walls of signs that they're nabbing off of the side of the road, which I think if you're in any of those junk removal groups, man, everybody's taking their signs now. It's like, you want to take mine and post it on the internet? That's fine.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Lots of drama. So you're saying that you shouldn't just put out yard signs the day that your phone is quiet and you're panicking and you're like, I have no jobs for the week.
Even for a single operator, if you're not putting out at least 1 to 2 signs per day, you know, that's not good. And be where your customers are at. If you know of good neighborhoods, hit up near that grocery store. Everybody's got to eat. And normally the person that's buying the groceries, they're the ones that make things happen. So you're actually talking to them. That stuff matters. Being right where they are, school zones are really good too, because the vast majority of our customers, even if they don't have kids, like a lot of them are grandparents, and they're going back and forth from those locations. So that's important. Just be where your customers are and be consistent, day after day, month after month, and quarter after quarter as well.
Those are some really good hacks. Actually, I haven't heard of that myself. And if someone's not going out and taking action on that right away, then they're missing out. Like I definitely agree with the be where your customers are for junk removal, especially a lot of home service. Our clients are often the wives of the family, the mothers, the grandmothers. Um, they're making a lot of decisions. They want the new addition. They want the stuff cleaned up. And then the husband's partners they get the honeydew list and then it doesn't get done and then they're calling the people to get it done. But putting it in the grocery stores, the school zones, that's a marketing without rules nugget right there.
Yeah, and our statistics are really showing too. It used to be like a 60-40 split between women versus men who called us. We're actually seeing that that's starting to equalize right now. So we're
Interesting.
definitely 55% to 45%. But things really are starting to equalize out, and we're seeing that even when we're going out in the truck. Like it's getting more and more even because there's just so many things going on. So where are your customers at? And school systems too, it's moms and dads picking up the kids now. We just don't have enough time because mom is working, dad's working, bills sure aren't going down, and neither is time. So just try to figure out where they're hanging out. And like I said, that's how we try to take a look at it. And we try to keep it basic too. I try not to overcomplicate anything.
Yeah, it was interesting. I forget which guest it was, but recently had a guest and they were talking about look at where the big grocery stores go down, the Costco's, the Walmarts, and market around those areas because they know that they're putting it in a good area. They've done the research, they've spent the tons of money on that, and so if you can market around those areas, typically that's a good clientele right there because the work's already been done for you research wise.
Yeah, it can be. Walmart's kind of like 50-50, I can kind of say, because Walmart's will go into just about any type of neighborhood. But we've seen
They're just going to
Targets.
land wherever they want.
Yeah, Targets are a really good anchor store because they are targeting primarily what our demographic is.
Mhm.
And that works out really well, that we have found.
That's awesome. So, guys, this is a rewatchable and actionable moment right here. If there was any from this, what about reviews? I'm huge on reviews. How do you coach your crews to basically turn every job, every 5-star experience into an actual 5-star review or a referral?
Sure. So we definitely have like a step-by-step process that we do. And I cannot hit harder than make sure you clean up after yourself. It's not the customer's job to clean up after what you're doing because you're like, let's
That's what they
face it,
hired you for.
yeah, junk removal is a luxury brand. It is not a bargain brand, regardless if you get bargain customers or not. That's not what we do, and that's not what we service. Um, but by sweeping up and just doing that like little bit of extra mile, and then we have thank you cards with QR codes on them that end up doing quite well. And that QR code goes, I don't filter my reviews. So I don't care if people are giving good reviews or bad reviews.
Yeah.
And why I don't care about that is if we're getting bad reviews, it's probably because I have an employee that's not doing their job the way that they should be doing, and I want to know what it is.
Yeah.
So, and also how you respond to bad reviews as well is I would say that's a bigger tell on your business than how you respond to the positive reviews.
I
And
agree.
we focus on that heavily. And really, the only thing that we find is we get more reviews than people who try to filter, and customer satisfaction is higher. And we typically don't have any problems with our service delivery. It's normally pretty
Yeah.
solid.
You're not scared about the delivery. You're out there, like a lion, getting the good delivery and then getting the good review from it.
Exactly. Got to go in for the hunt.
I love it. What's the circling back to marketing? I am a sucker for. I mean, it's in the intro. People that color outside the lines, people that do things that nobody thinks of. What are some, at least one crazy marketing thing that you've tried, and whether it flopped or not? Give us a story.
Oh, geez. I mean, there are so many ways to market. I have done so many things. Uh, you know, um, mm, I'll tell you what works really good is especially in like Target neighbor. Here I'm giving all my secrets away, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
That's
but
what we're here for.
yeah. But it's really just making sure that uh especially places that you're at, like let's say if you have a swimming pool or you're going to a gym or like your kids are going to the gym or something like that, uh even if you're not getting direct business from it, but doing sponsorships for your community, like think about it like you're giving back to the swim teams, you're giving back to the gyms that your daughters might be going to gymnastics for or whatever it is. Make your, especially where you're at, like make your impression be known. Like, hey, it is really cool too when your kids go up there and say, hey, that's my dad's business or something like that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's huge. And that's not necessarily about getting direct money back, but just making your presence known. And if you're nervous about doing that, like take a look at yourself. Are you giving a good service or not? Because if you don't want to be known about it, you probably need to work on what you're delivering uh, out there. But that's huge. I wouldn't say that's necessarily a flop, but it's definitely like a personal win
Yeah.
that I have.
Yeah, it's harder to track the direct ROI. It's certainly a fantastic ego boost to see your name up on, the side of the swimming pool or on the back of shirts of events. And it's also content opportunities. So you can take that and turn it into a bunch of different pieces of content for your website, for your, social media, tag the event, get shown up on their feed, so on and so forth. So it's yeah, big fan of those. That's awesome. What do you guys do that consistently?
I definitely do. Year after year, like at the swimming pool that my family and I do, I don't even think I have a phone number or QR code or anything. It's just like our brand is there.
Yeah.
And I did that because it's not necessarily, it's not even necessarily about the ego boost as much as like now people know like when they need swim nets or the slide to be repaired or something like that. Like we need to give back to our community that gives back to us. And
Yeah.
instead of an ego boost for me, I think of it more as care. Like I'm caring
Yeah.
for my community, and that's just the imprint that I'm not nameless on, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And no,
Yeah,
and like,
if I were to
yeah,
rephrase that, I'd probably change it maybe from an ego boost to it's certainly, especially when you're just starting out, it feels really good to see your brand out in a bunch of different places. So I'd probably rephrase it that way a little bit. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it feels really good. And people recognize it too. Like they appreciate it. And that's how you become like a household brand is just being there. And sometimes you got to give without any expectation of giving, receiving. And those are, I think, are the best opportunities and the most opportunities that people overlook.
Yeah. Yeah. The things that aren't Hormozy says it, the scaling happens by doing the unscalable things.
Exactly.
How can you be the personal touch in your community? How can you clean up after the job? It's not scalable to have the guys clean up after the job. You're taking time out of the next job. I mean, you could be stacking two more jobs in a day, but that extra little bit, the tips go up, the reviews go up, the referrals go up, the repeat customer, the lifetime value goes up. All of those things happen because you're doing the unscalable things
Yeah.
that actually matter. Yeah,
And employees stay
huge.
longer when they get those tips.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, show up earlier, stay longer, and make happy customers. What
exactly.
if you were to ask what one of your crew chiefs what makes Spartan different from another job that they've done, what do you hope they'd say?
Um, I kind of have a little bit of insight because we actually had an employee leave here, and he ended up moving a couple states away with his girlfriend,
Hmm.
and he was with us for like 2 or 3 years, which was great. But he's had like in the last 2 years, I think he's had like 8 jobs.
Wow.
And he actually reached out to us and gave us an email. Was like, hey, you're one of the best employers I have ever had. And I asked him why, and he said, because you're human. He was like, you're just a regular, you're just a good guy trying to do some stuff. So even when I said that earlier, like that's actually his voice going through me about that. And
Yeah.
that's what I hope that people get from, because I don't tolerate any of the manipulation or any of the drama. Just like be a good person, try to do good things. And we're all out here for the same purpose. It's just trying to make people's lives better. And when we hit that, like everybody resonates, which is awesome.
Yeah. My intrusive thoughts as you were saying that was like, otherwise I'm going to bring Mr. Lawyer to to come down on you if you're not a good person. But real question, how has the law background affected you running your business? Like as a business owner, how has that helped you?
Sure. So first thing is I know that language is very important, especially when we enter into contracts.
Hmm.
Um, and also, contracts aren't just like willy-nilly. Like those things have weight. And I can immediately tell, especially if I'm entering into a contract with somebody, if I know they're gonna like they're there to perform. Because the ones that
Hmm.
aren't are heavy-handed against me.
Yeah.
I like ones that are for me and them. And then, nobody's really having any in a contract that's going to be heavily on the customer side. Like nobody,
Yeah.
like, why would you enter in a contract for that, right? Um, but with that said, like we have a plan for our work boots at like Red Wing.
Yeah.
And theirs was like surprisingly for the business and the employee, like, hey, we're going to back everything up and we're putting this in writing. Like, our boots are fantastic.
Yeah.
And I even mentioned that when I signed that contract. And they actually submitted me to their like manager or whatever because I caught that. But that's like something.
No more leniency.
Yeah, and then when I like read contracts, like we just switched over like our camera systems because our camera system was getting too damn expensive, and I was like, I'll watch this world burn before I pay this price.
Yeah.
And I actually got pretty nasty with them too. And I was out of contract, so I didn't have any like default or anything like that. But then just by seeing the change of contracts and seeing the change of tone, it's like, dude, I got to get out of this contract. Like, you guys are going to start
Mm.
not performing. And then I found one that was really fair. And then as long as their contracts are fair and it's like the commitment that I make, then I'm comfortable. But as soon as I see anybody trying to like get over on me, it's like, nah, I don't need to do this. There's too much competition out there. So I'll find somebody
Interesting.
else.
So you can tell if you actually read it, you can actually tell a lot about the company, I suppose. Yeah.
The company, the owners, the people selling to you, oh yeah, 100%. And it's weird too, because like you can change stuff in contracts. Like, contracts aren't absolute. Actually, if you can't change anything in a contract, that means you don't have proper consideration for it. If they're like, it's my way or the highway, just choose the highway.
Yeah.
I've seen some weird stuff
Have
happen
you
in these.
actually gone to someone that's like getting you to sign a contract and you'll send it back for amendment?
Oh, I do that. As a matter of fact, I just did that this morning. We're getting an addition put on our house, and I always change contracts. I'm not going to name this company, but like, my kids were going into daycare, and in the contract they said that we waive negligence and gross negligence. So for what people don't, if you don't, I'm sure everybody knows what negligence is. Like, they should have done something, but they didn't do it. But gross negligence is like, you're hurting my kids on purpose.
Mm.
And that particular place tried to shut down our Facebook group and everything. And they actually got lawyers involved. And I actually made the comment. I was like, who's here abusing the kids? By the way, I did not say that in these nice terms. I was actually pretty nasty about it. They like shut their mouths, then reissued the contract with my amendments in there. So it's like,
Wow.
it's really weird. Like, when I take my kids to you, first off, you can't sign away gross negligence. Like, you can't do it. Like, you can't get in a contract with somebody and say, hey, if I don't pay you $10, you have I give you the legal right to shoot me in the head. Like, you can't do that. That's murder, right? It's the same thing with kids. Like, you can't sign away gross negligence. You hurt my kids, I'm coming after you.
Yeah.
And even when I mentioned that, that's when, and that's when they reissued it. But yeah, read your contracts. It's so interesting what companies will put in their contracts to get it slid by. And by the way, the interesting stuff too is never going to hold up in court. But they try to do that to like bully and intimidate people if they mess up.
Hmm. Sounds like more people in politics need to learn how to read politics so they can not let
Thank
those slide through.
Yeah,
But that's neither here nor there when it comes to marketing. Uh,
exactly.
speaking of, kind of going back to the leadership thing, I know that's big on my mind. So you've kind of bring people in, you treat them well. Obviously, there are some people that are more leadership oriented. You're going to see those
Mhm.
people pretty quick, the go getters, and then you have go getters that just do stuff. They're awesome, and then you have people that have those leadership tendencies. What's your action steps that you take to move them from a doer to more of a management role?
Sure. So we actually, even the driver position that we have out for our trucks, that is a management role. It's a much smaller management role, but you're actually like driving the truck and being responsible for maintenance on the trucks because they're driving it and they'll be getting tickets. We really recommend our teams to just, well, back to our second critical action is handle their shit and
Mm.
just really understand who they are. And that adds a lot of role. Most people don't realize like leadership is an internal process. It's not external. It's not telling people what to do. It's leading people to an outcome. And there's a lot of front work that's done in leadership. And we really hone down on people, especially what they're doing really good. and how to better improve themselves. And we also don't crucify our employees if they make a wrong decision. Like we had one employee who made a couple bad decisions over the last month, but he really pulled it out of the hat and then turned a bad situation. Actually, the customers converted. They were very happy with him when he was done. And when we were tracking the metrics, like he was fairly profitable too out of those jobs. So just by giving people that like willing, most of the guys that we hire here are between the ages of 18 and 25. They need to have rooms to mess up, especially because, they're not with mom and dad anymore. But the effects are real. You have to show them what those effects are and let them, essentially clean up after themselves.
Yeah.
And while most companies say like young people don't work and stuff like that, I don't see that. I see them working really good. It's just the only thing I see is they're nervous about making those steps to like learn. And that's where they see me. It's like, hey man, I'm not your mom, I'm not your dad, and do not ever send your mom and dad to me because I will yell at them if they try to if they try to do what your work is supposed to be. And I've had an employee do that. He even tried to give me like written permission for his mom to do stuff. And I actually ripped it up in front of him. And I said, I don't have to accept this. Like you either do it or leave, like find
Yeah.
another job somewhere that'll do it. And he actually grew quite a bit being here just because I kind of took that helicopter parent away. But that's what I see in people just entering in the workforce is that they're just nervous. But give them enough opportunity, they'll grow and they'll really thrive.
Yeah. I mean, people are terrified of failure because their whole life they've been graded, against the community, all through school. And you mess up once, you could be going back a grade. Really, is the extreme version of it. But that definitely follows people when they're in the workplace. And if you can, kind of say, hey, we don't mind you making mistakes. Don't make them twice, if at all possible, and figure out how to, not make it and own your mistakes. And let's keep going.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. Well, Chris, this has been fun. This has been a cool chat. I didn't know about the legal side, and that was a fun little side tangent there. To wrap up here, what's the scariest decision you've had to make in business, whether it was a growth decision or marketing decision or team decision? A story that you're comfortable sharing. Scariest growth decision, and what pushed you over the edge to make that decision.
Sure. So business isn't all fun and games. And it can
No
get
way.
really difficult. I know, right? It can get really difficult in times. But the biggest decision that I've ever made was to keep going. Like there was a time where I almost went bankrupt. Because the economy is very real. And when these jobs really start to slow down, the as much as what people on the internet say is like spend more, that's not the way. is what I have found out. You have to be more strategic. And I was really close to bankruptcy at one time, but I remember sitting in my car and being like, what do I do next? Because do I find a job? What do I do? And I was like, I can't work for somebody. Like I'm a terrible employee. I'm an entrepreneur, I can take risks and people don't like that when you're so I was like, let me just start over and let me like reprove my model. Best decision I have ever made because everything that ever brought me pain was because I wasn't doing things the way that it should have been. And it was outside of like what I thought how it should be. And when I decided to keep going, the growth was explosive. So for all of those out there who are having growth challenges, take a little, like actually take off, like, try to take a little bit of a mini vacation if you can to let your mind rest, figure out what you need to improve and go with it and just learn from your mistakes, but keep pushing on.
Yeah, that's big. What did that actually look like restarting? Like, did you just kind of pull back and kind of assess it as if you were perhaps purchasing this as a new business or something like that and fixing everything as you were going through?
Sure. So I had the bankruptcy check in my hand. I was going to take it to the lawyer, and I actually decided not to. I was on the way to do that.
Oof,
And then
that's that's a close shave right there.
yeah, it was. But at the time, like because of the way that I was managing, the management toxified because it was too like me oriented.
Hmm.
And I actually came in and I terminated everybody but one employee
Wow.
all at one time. So I had to do it was essentially an unchecked manager that like kept filling people's heads up with stuff. So that was a really difficult kind of situation that I had to go through. Um,
Mm,
but later on, like I realized it was my fault because I should have been leading a little bit differently. So my lessons on it were extensive. And then when I did, I just trusted what I have already built. And when I executed everything the way that it needed to be, it was 120 days exactly that I had everything humming better than it did before. Because now we were like metric centered. We were like really driving home, making sure we're efficient and we're servicing the customers. And once I got back to that route, it was bigger, better than ever. And we're still riding that wave now. And if while at the time was very painful, it feels really good right now to go through that process, and I'm thankful for it.
I believe it. Yeah, I bet you're thankful you didn't hand in that check.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Man, that's crazy. Well, Chris, this has been a lot of fun, guys. As I always say, go back and find some. I even highlighted some as we went through some marketing without rules nuggets, some coloring outside the lines. Some of them just doing the consistent things, as in the yard signs. Be
Yeah,
be consistent. Be a hustler. Be a hunter. Go out and do the things. Chris brought some really cool insights here. Read your contracts. Don't let your daycare destroy your kids and get away with it. But
exactly.
Chris, where can people follow you and keep up with your journey?
Sure. LinkedIn. I'll go through spurt. I need to be more consistent on my LinkedIn, but I put a lot of like interesting facts and stuff like that. I'm a pretty big nerd, and then I like sharing that stuff in the business mindset. Like you'll get to hear things like, humans can smell rain better than a shark can smell blood and water. Like I learned that.
What?
That's what, yeah, like it messed with my head. It's geomycin, I think, or geomycin or something like that. But
Yeah.
humans can smell that way better than a shark can smell blood in the water. And they think it's because back in the day when we were tribal and stuff like that, like we didn't want our like entire groups being swept away in floods. So
Yeah.
like instinctively our ancestors would go higher up. But yeah, I share a bunch of like weird facts that I find interesting and like I relate it to
That's awesome.
business.
That's awesome. Well, we'll leave you guys with that random fact. Chris, appreciate you once again. And guys, we will see you on the next one.
It
Talk
was a
soon.
pleasure. Thank you so much.